Good morning and welcome to CafeTalk. It is Monday, August 10th, 2024. An airborne LiDAR survey in the southwestern Brazilian Amazon recorded 396 previously unrecorded earthworks.
396 new records? My Monday to-do list suddenly looks very small, and now I want to know how wide the full picture is.
That question leads directly into our other stories, because today we are looking at how evidence and agreements can widen a picture without removing its limits.
Good. I like a wide view, but I also want a clear frame around what we actually know.
Today's key word is scope. We will use it to ask how much a study, agreement, project, or discussion actually covers.
That fits. It's like zooming out on a map while keeping the border visible, so the big view doesn't become a blurry guess.
First, we'll examine the survey's recorded earthworks and the much larger estimates for the Aquari region.
I'm ready, though those numbers may require both hands around my coffee.
Then, we'll look at the scope of a 5-year streaming agreement covering 7 series and 371 episodes.
My watch list just sat up very straight. Rights, dates, and availability can make one show feel like a scheduling puzzle.
Finally, we'll discuss about 22.5 hours of animal-mounted camera footage from 5 whale sharks at Ningaloo Reef.
That feels like borrowing 5 underwater viewpoints instead of watching the ocean only from above.
Across all 3 stories, careful English matters. Recorded is not estimated, rights are not one universal start date, and observed footage has a defined sample.
So, scope is not just about making something sound huge, it also tells us where the edges are. At CafeTalk, we turn real news into natural English you can use in everyday conversations. Listen for recorded, estimated, co-exclusive, and from the surface to the seafloor. If you enjoy learning this way, please subscribe and join us for another clear, friendly conversation each day. Let's start with the Amazon survey and keep our map, our numbers, and our Monday brains on the same table.
A 2024 airborne LiDAR survey covered 4,497 square kilometers in the southwestern Brazilian Amazon and recorded 432 earthworks, including 396 that had not been recorded before.
That is not one extra pin on a map. It is like opening a drawer and finding hundreds of labeled pieces you didn't know were there.
That image matches the change in the record. Of the 432 earthworks in the survey, 36 were already known, leaving 396 as newly recorded.
I appreciate that clean split. My brain can hold 2 trays, the known pieces and the newly recorded ones.
And recorded is the careful word here. It tells us what the 2024 survey documented across its 4,497 square kilometer area.
So I shouldn't turn one flight survey into a magic flashlight that instantly counted every earthwork in the whole region.
Right. The broader number comes from an estimate. The paper says the Aquari region may contain between 24,000 and 30,000 earthworks.
That range is enormous. My little 2-tray system just became a warehouse with a very serious clipboard.
A warehouse is a useful scale image, as long as we keep the label estimate on it. The survey recorded 432. The regional figure is 24,000 to 30,000.
That difference matters. One number comes from what the survey documented, while the other describes the paper's wider possible scope.
The paper also estimated that the population of the Aquari region between 100 and 300 AD was between 1.25 million and 3 million people.
Now the map feels less empty in my imagination, but the wide range reminds me not to pretend we have one exact head count.
Exactly. Your reaction captures both scale and caution. The population figure is an estimate tied to a specific region and the period from 100 to 300 AD.
I like that the dates give the number a frame. Without them, a big population estimate would float around like a price tag with no product.
That's where scope helps. We can ask, what area did the survey cover? And separately, what did the paper estimate for the wider a query region?
2 questions, 2 answers. That's much easier than pouring every number into one giant Monday smoothie.
And your smoothie warning brings us back to precise verbs. The survey recorded earthworks, while the paper estimated regional totals and population.
Those verbs do real work. If I hear recorded, I picture entries on a map. If I hear estimated, I leave room around the number.
The news value is the expanded record. 396 newly recorded earthworks within a survey area of 4,497 square kilometers.
That alone changes the picture. I don't need to decorate it with an invented story about who stood where or what every site meant.
Precisely. The solid picture is already substantial. A documented count, a larger regional estimate, and a population estimate with a defined period.
Topic 1 has given scope a very practical job. Zoom out, but keep every number attached to the kind of claim it actually is.
So, AMC Global Media's SEC filing says Netflix receives co-exclusive global streaming rights to all 7 series and 371 episodes in the Walking Dead universe, while the company keeps worldwide rights to show them on its own streaming service.
So this is not one platform taking the only key. It is more like 2 doors staying open under one very large rights agreement.
That image works. Co-exclusive is the important boundary. Netflix gets the stated global streaming rights, and the company retains worldwide exhibition rights on its own service.
I need that boundary because subscription news can sound like everything moved, cancel your plans, when the actual arrangement is more specific.
The content scope is specific too. 7 series and 371 episodes are covered by the agreement.
371 episodes is not a casual weekend suggestion. That is a watch list arriving with luggage.
The luggage comes with a large price tag. The filing states total licensing fees of $500 million over 5 years.
My imaginary receipt just rolled off the table. 5 years helps me see that the amount belongs to a defined period, not one afternoon.
Yes, and timing has another important limit. Each title's license begins according to when existing rights expire, so start dates vary by region.
There goes my plan to circle one giant date on every calendar. Availability is more like several clocks than one alarm.
Several clocks is exactly the point. The agreement has global scope, but that does not mean every title starts everywhere on the same day.
That's useful whenever a friend asks, "Can I watch it now?" The honest answer may depend on the title and the region.
The joint announcement says 6 spin-offs will stream globally on Netflix from 2027 and also on the company's streaming service where it is available.
Now I can picture the map again, but this time it has service areas and different starting points instead of earthwork markers.
And the original series was announced to begin streaming on that same service early next year.
That detail keeps me from stuffing the original series and all 6 spin-offs into one identical launch box.
Exactly. We can say the agreement covers the full 7-series universe, while the announced timing differs across titles, services, and regions.
My everyday version is a group dinner reservation. Everyone is included, but they may not all walk through the door at the same minute.
That comparison returns us to the facts without flattening them. Coverage is broad, and availability still follows separate conditions.
This is scope with fine print in the best sense. The big number gets attention, but the timing rules make the picture usable.
So the key facts are 7 series, 371 episodes, co-exclusive global rights, the company's retained rights, $500 million over 5 years, and region-dependent start dates.
That's enough for my watch list. It can be excited, but it's not allowed to invent a universal release calendar.
A marine biology study analyzed about 22.5 hours of animal-mounted camera footage from 5 whale sharks at Ningaloo Reef. The sample was 5 animals and about 22.5 hours, so this close, moving view has a clear boundary.
5 animals and more than 22 hours feels like borrowing 5 pairs of underwater eyes, then returning with a very full video folder.
Your video folder image fits the data boundary. The study analyzed footage from 5 individuals, totaling approximately 22.5 hours. I would need a careful playlist just to review it. Surface, Deeper, and Please Bring Another Coffee would be my first folders. The scientific result was more organized. The paper identified 12 types of feeding behavior in wild whale sharks.
12 ways of feeding is more variety than I expected. My breakfast behavior has about 2 types, awake and not quite awake.
Your breakfast has a smaller scope. The study's footage recorded behavior from the water surface down to the benthic environment near the seafloor.
That vertical range is what grabs me. The picture doesn't stop at the bright top of the water. It continues down toward the bottom.
Yes, and that is the fact we can keep. The recorded behavior extended from the surface to the seafloor environment, including feeding near the bottom.
It makes one flat water view feel incomplete, like judging a whole building after looking only through the lobby window.
That comparison helps explain the wider view, while the sample remains clear, 5 animals and about 22.5 hours. I respect that honesty. A fascinating camera angle doesn't turn 5 whale sharks into every whale shark everywhere. Right. The study used the available footage to identify 12 feeding behaviors in the wild, not to claim an unlimited view of the species.
That makes the result feel stronger, not smaller. I know exactly what's inside the folder before I react to it.
And animal-mounted footage is useful language. It tells us the camera moved with the animal rather than describing a distant general view.
So the camera isn't a spectator in a fixed cafe seat. Its viewpoint travels through the water with the subject.
That moving viewpoint supported observations across the water column, from the surface down to the benthic environment. From the surface to the sea floor is a phrase I can immediately see. It gives the research a beginning, an end, and depth. It also brings us back to scope. Here, scope means the number of animals, the hours of footage, and the range of environments represented in the observations.
3 edges around one story. My imagination can swim inside them without wandering into claims the study didn't make.
The confirmed picture is compelling on its own. 5 individuals, about 22.5 hours, 12 feeding behaviors, and observations reaching the seafloor environment.
That's a satisfying final topic. The camera widens the view, and the numbers keep the view honest.
Which story changed your sense of scale most today? Hundreds of newly recorded earthworks? A 371-episode rights agreement? Or whale shark footage reaching the seafloor environment?
I keep bouncing between the map and the ocean. One widens across land, and the other widens from the surface downward.
In the first story, scope separated a 4,447 square kilometer survey and its 432 recorded earthworks from much larger regional estimates.
That taught me to keep recorded and estimated in different trays, even when both numbers are exciting.
In the second, scope covered 7 series and 371 episodes, while regional start dates still depended on existing rights.
My watch list learned patience. A broad agreement can still arrive through several doors and several clocks.
In the third, scope meant 5 whale sharks, about 22.5 hours of footage, 12 feeding behaviors, and observations from the surface to the seafloor environment.
That one made scope feel three-dimensional. It had subjects, time, and depth.
Take today's key word with you. Asking about scope helps you appreciate a big result while keeping its boundaries visible.
I like that. Zoom out enough to see the picture, then check the frame before telling the story.
Which story would you choose, and why? A is the Amazon survey, B is the streaming agreement, or C is the whale shack study.
I choose C because the phrase "from the surface to the seafloor" gives me a clear picture without asking me to imagine facts beyond the footage.
I choose A because the difference between a recorded count and a regional estimate is a powerful lesson in careful language.
Share your answer in any language. Add an emoji if you like, and please like and subscribe.
Even a short reason is welcome. Keep the big picture and its edges together, and we will see you tomorrow at Cafe Talk.